Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel, The Lowdown. We're back with you today. We're going to change up just a little bit. We are going to start diving into the golf part of this whole thing. We've been showing you some training, got some fishing in there, we've got some other good stuff coming. But after that US Open beatdown from Bryson DeChambeau, I mean, how about that? A US Open golf setup at Wingfoot that nobody else could barely get under par. I think Matt Wolf maybe got the one under at the end.
Right.
And Bryson just torches it for, what, 6 under par? Did he win a championship score? Amazing. That is something else. So we're going to talk about that and kind of the setup today. I'm going to bring in my good buddy here, my best friend Ken Taylor, and we're going to talk about kind of this path that Bryson has been on to change his body so he can hit the ball farther, club head speed, ball velocity, distance, and how that kind of transcended to go out there and beat the heck out of that golf course, and to show you some exercises, give you some information on maybe how you can put this kind of program into play. Talk about right out of the gate, this guy and I were training partners way back in the day. Ken was a national bodybuilding competitor. He's got trophies that could line this wall. He transformed his body when he fell into golf. He kind of came into golf late compared to what most people come into golf. You know, they start out as a kid. When did you start?
Yeah, year 1999, almost 2000. I was 40 years old, and at the time I just retired from bodybuilding and was 280 pounds and tried to go out and swing a club, and well, let's just say it wasn't very pretty. So
yeah, there's a great ESPN story. I don't know if you were on ESPN, but it was some kind of event that they were covering, and Ken was there as a bodybuilding judge or some kind of physique contest judge. And they invited him to play in this pro-am type of event, and he had never played before. Right. And I think I might get some of this wrong. I'll just make it really quick so we don't eat up too much time. But they invited him to play. He said, I can't play this game. I don't know anything about it. I don't have any clubs. Well, we'll let you borrow some clubs. Right. Well, I don't have any balls. Well, between all the group, they got about 27 balls together. And they went out and played. And I think, what hole were you on when you ran out of golf balls?
Yeah, I think it was like 17 at Willowbrook, you know, and everybody giving me all they had extra in their bag, and they're like, all right, this is the last ball we're getting.
Yeah.
And it was like a 180-yard par 3, and I hit a 5-iron about 4 inches from the hole.
And you were sold.
Unbelievable shot, and I said, this I got to have.
And he's been on golf ever since, and this guy has more focus and detail than any human alive. One quick example of how focused this guy gets: when he was a bodybuilding competitor, he went 14 years without consuming any other liquid than water. Coffee, tea, milk, juice, any of that stuff was out. Right. All water. That takes some discipline, and he puts this kind of discipline into golf. So he's transformed his body from being 265 pounds of massive muscle and competitive bodybuilding to golf. And he's still a hell of a physique, but now it's more of a golf physique. And he takes yoga. He's more flexible than anybody I know. His training program is geared to make him a better golfer.
And Robbie, that's the interesting thing. And you know, my phone has been blowing up since the U.S. Open conclusion on Sunday. And so I want to thank Bryson DeChambeau for doing what he did, because it's going to help our business. But people are actually calling me and saying, man, can you really get stronger and get bigger and improve your golf game? And it's kind of the same thing I've been telling people for 20-something years. In 2004, I started training the USC men's golf team. Been with them ever since. Back in the day before that, if you go back in the 80s and 90s, I was the assistant director of strength and conditioning for all sports. And I kind of kicked the golfers out of the weight room. They kind of got in the way of my football players, and I thought they were wasting time.
I was the same way.
Now I have so much respect for the game of golf. I love it. I compete. I've got, you know, around 22 wins on the South Carolina Golf Association one-day event level, and compete in a lot of the state amateur stuff, now state senior stuff, because I'm right at 60. But my point is that, you know, you can gain power and strength and muscle and still be a great golfer. You just have to know the gradual sequential process of how it works. So let's take Bryson DeChambeau, for example. Everybody is kind of dumbfounded that he's put on this 30 pounds of weight and he's got this massive swing going on, and you know, how was he so successful at Wingfoot? Well, there's a couple of different things to think about. Number one, from training all the golfers from juniors to seniors, mid-ams, I've got tour winners, I've got tour players, and I've trained a little bit of everything. One thing I will tell you is that sequencing and mobility have to be there.
Yep.
So if you have sequencing and you have mobility and you just start to add strength and power, you're going to be better because you're going to be longer. Bigger, stronger is longer. But that sequencing still has to be there. Now, as a warning, we have seen Tiger Woods, Jason Day, David Duval, Rory McIlroy really take off on the strength training part of it to the point where it was almost detrimental to their sequencing and their mobility.
Yep.
So you have to make sure that in your training you are specific enough to know that, yes, I want to be big and strong and powerful, but I have to be able to sequence my speed at the right time for control. Now, this is a take that I don't know if y'all have even thought about or not, but everybody says, well, how did Bryson hit wedges out of the rough and nobody else hit wedges out of the rough efficiently?
Yep.
Was it his strength? His strength was a factor. But also remember the uniqueness of him now. All of his clubs are the same length. So his wedge length is about a 7-iron length for most people. So that's a leverage point. He also is a one-plane swinger, which means he's a little bit steep compared to most teaching and coaching around the country. So being a little bit steeper, your wedges like that, and that kind of deep descend like that helps you to get the ball up higher and softer too. So I think that was a big advantage as well.
Oh, I think that was a huge advantage, and that's something that I wanted to talk about. Glad you brought it up, because it's not just the this weightlifting approach or this workout approach that he's kind of brought into the game and amplified it a little bit over what the other guys have done in the past. But his club setup and the things that he does, I've never seen a guy use a protractor on the green to help read the greens. I don't think anybody in my neighborhood even knows how to use a protractor. And this guy, I mean, he's got it out there and he's reading greens with it. Well, you know, that got kind of stifled by the PGA. They said you can't use that. But everything else he does, like you said, one length clubs, and I think they are 7-iron length if I'm not mistaken. He uses grips that I used to put 4 grips of tape under, or 4 wraps of tape under my grips. I don't know how many he's got. He might have 10 under there. Plus, it's probably a grip that's just made thicker anyway. So it is enormous. I'd love to see the diameter on that thing. I mean, I'm really curious. And then he's got, his clubs are obviously going to be bent a little bit stronger. I have no doubt that his pitching wedge, which I think his stock pitching wedge I read was 190 yards maybe, something like that. And so that's not a 44-degree pitching wedge or a 46-degree pitching wedge or something like that. That's a little bit stronger, most likely. I'm curious to see who follows now in the off season.
Well, we've seen a big jump in ball speed. We've seen a big jump in club head speed. And this is what I do every day, all day. I do it with my juniors again and all my different athletes. One cool thing about what we do is that we use a technology where the bars are flexible. And so when you create lag in a bar, it doesn't take long for the body to sense that and put in an actual extra lag and flexology into the sensory system. Very fortunate that way. So, you know, if you were just lifting kettlebells, dumbbells, steel out there, I would just say be careful on how much is too much. Start to really have a kinesthetic sense about what you feel, because tendonitis, bursitis, how steel and metal beat up the bones is a little different than our polypropylene and our flexible bars. I had the tricep scars to prove it. I kind of know what I'm talking about there. But you want to get your body where you're able to support all the practice and play and lifting that you're doing cohesively together. So, you know, if you're a golfer, your QLs in your lower back, they're going to be under duress. I don't care if you're
Put me in a position if you need me somewhere.
So go ahead and take an address position in golf. And because we should rotate around our thoracic spine, we get lazy, or we might not be weak into one of our power systems in our power slings within the body. So we're going to try to do some rotation out of our lumbar spine, which you guys know anatomically it's not even capable of rotating. But because we try to do so much rotating with the pelvis and the T-spine, it puts the QLs, the quadris laborum, under duress all the time. I don't have any players, any kind of level, that doesn't have lower back issues to some degree and pelvis issues to some degree. It could be caused from tight hip flexors, so glutes. So just going in the gym and thinking, okay, I'm gonna be like our new tour winner. I'm gonna do deadlifts and I'm gonna do squats and I'm gonna do all these things. All those movements are good, and all those movements are used for power, and I use them every day in my golfers, but I also mix it up with a lot of mobility, Robbie, a lot of stability, a lot of balance. And then also, where is my speed enhancement coming from? Is there some overspeed training? People say, well, what do you mean overspeed training? I know from working, from never playing the game to being a scratch player, that if I want my sequencing to be good and I want my mechanics to be good, I've got to work in the ingredients slow. If we go out on the track right now and you want to become a better runner, we don't just bust out the hundreds as fast as you can, we work on your form running.
Right.
So golf's the same way. As you're working on improving your technique, you're putting those ingredients in your swing, whether it's wrist hinge, bowing, cupping, whatever you're doing, those ingredients come in slow. Well, when do you actually work the speed concept? So at least one day of your training needs to be an overspeed training, where you're swinging a speed golf stick or a speed stick or some type of implement. We use a lot of the Tsunami stuff here to actually swing faster than you normally would in your practice or in your game competition. Because if we're not getting faster, we're getting
slower.
If we're not getting stronger, we're getting
weaker.
So maintenance is kind of a word we don't use a whole lot around here.
I'm 100% on that. There is no maintaining. If you think you're maintaining, the guys behind you, they're catching up to you, so you're losing.
That's right.
So maintenance is no deal. We're always looking to improve. Ken's at the highest level of TPI. And then you take that along with his other 40 years of knowledge that he's got a master's degree. I thought it was a master's degree in exercise science. He's a biomechanist. He's worked as a Division I strength coach. I know this guy for a long time, and I can promise you that anything that you're listening to right now are pearls of wisdom, and you might want to get your notepad out and start taking some notes. What are the primary muscle groups, especially for the guys, the viewers that might be, they work a full-time job, they got family and kids,
right.
They're trying to work on their golf game. They don't have 2 hours to spend every day in the gym like you and I did back in the day.
Right.
So let's break this down into a 2 or 3 primary muscle groups.
Absolutely.
And what they are, and then we'll get into maybe how to work them with a couple of different exercises.
So real quickly, what I've seen in strength and conditioning and training for all sports specificities over the last 10 years is that we've gotten away from conventional training or muscle isolation, compartmental training, and got into functional training. What does that mean? That means that we want to train our body to be functional in all motor skills and motor movements and not just one particular. 1976, Arthur Jones comes out with the first knowledge machine.
Right.
We think it's the greatest thing since hot bread.
Loved it.
So we sit on a pec deck for an hour just working on pectorials. Well, that does a lot for the visible enhancement of
the chicks loved it on the beach.
Yeah, but there is no functionability in that. So if we have 640 muscles, I would say to the folks out there that are trying to maximize their time, because I'm all about time management, 100%. And so let's say you allocate 30 minutes 3 times a week to train for your golf.
That's fair.
I would say that in those 640 muscles, I want to stimulate power, strength, speed, stabilization, mobilization, balance, and core activation. Okay? In golf, you have 4 power systems: vertical power, torso power, arm chopping power, and then what happens between the elbow and the wrist.
Right.
Can I do enough movements in 30 minutes to make all that enhanced? Can I do enough movement in 30 minutes to make sure that through impact I have a good base, I'm putting good pressure in the ground, and I have good balance?
Right.
Can I get to a high finish and be able to stabilize? There's a lot going on there. But I will say this, Robbie, from our background: do not stay away from deadlifts because they're great for golfers.
I love them.
Do not stay away from squats or squat to a press because they're great for golfers. Do not stay away from kettlebell swings because that's the positioning you are in the bunker, and you use a lot of projection in your vertical power from the enhancement of your abductors, adductors, and hip thrust coming through on your kettlebell swing. So there's a lot of correlation there. Again,
absolutely.
What do you see when you see people do kettlebell swings? You see the magical 3-letter word that we're all chasing in golf. What is it? L-A-G.
Lag. I knew it was coming.
So if I've got lag in that kettlebell, which means I'm not driving with my arms because they should be just hanging on for the ride,
right.
That means my hip inertia, my inner thighs are propelling that. Very common to, once I start to drop it in the slot, it's a lot of hip inertia. Is there some rotation? Yes. Is there some linear motion? Yes. But it's still inertia provided by the pelvis, which, by the way, you guys already know from following TPI, the king of the golf swing is the glutes, the queen of the golf swing is the trunk. Or we like to train the trunk in its totality. So again, going back to your 30-minute workout, I would make sure I did some trunk exercises that not only gave me increased mobility, but gave me the strength in my power bands. The power bands that we have, Robbie, they start in this anterior and they hook all the way to this posterior on this shoulder. On the same other side, we got this hook from this one to that one. If I had you turn around, you got another power band that comes from this hip flexor right here, from this glute right here to this anterior, from this glute right here to this anterior. So if I was to twist him and he was really solid, I couldn't really move his core very much, or his trunk. So that's what we do when we actually strengthen the rotational bands within. That comes from a lot of diversities of medicine ball work, dead bugs. There's lots of different exercises out there for trunk. So again, I'm building my 30-minute program. I've got my deadlifts in there. I've got my squats in there. I've got my kettlebell swings in there. I've got several different on-the-floor exercises that do both mobilization and trunk strengthening at the same time.
So write it down, what your intentions are to do that day, and then execute it. And once you get it in motion, all that stuff condensed down really won't seem that difficult at all. It's just having an understanding of what you're doing, and it's all kind of sequenced.
Right.
It's not like, none of that stuff he talked about was isolation.
Right.
Everything was linked. So there's 2 or 3 things going on at one time. You get through these exercises, and you're gonna get a good result. He's got a whole room full of golfers in here, from PGA Tour players to LPGA Tour players to long drive national competitors, and they all come to him for a reason. It's not because they're trying to maintain. We'll go back to that again. You're trying to win, and that's what they're trying to do when they come and see this guy right here. So we're going to come back to you in just a second with a little bit more information, maybe a couple exercises. All right, let's get into a little bit more of the specifics. We're going to talk about some hip mobility, some pressure into the ground, and some speed. But this is more golf specific. So I'm going to let Ken take this over, and he's going to use me as a prop if he needs me. Otherwise, Ken Taylor, let's get it.
All right. So let's think about what Robbie just said one time. Robbie, if you will, I just want you to face the camera and do one of the moves that you and I used to do all the time. Pretend you got dumbbells in your hand, and he's going to have, because I've seen him do this many times, especially when he was just coming out of baseball, he's got these grapefruit shoulders that are full of power and strength. What he would do is he would take a pair of dumbbells and he would do just a bent arm side lateral shoulders. So just show him what that motion looks like.
You know, I kind of started out the wrong way at one time. I used to go this way,
which is kind of a true side lateral.
No, don't do that. Yeah, that's not the way you want to do it. You want to get a little bit of angle in your elbows, and then you want to lead with the elbows. So this is the way we would go.
Okay, so let's say he was doing that motion, and go ahead and hold those up. I mean, my man is strong there. He's done his work on his deltoids there. But guess what? Go ahead and relax for a second. With all the strength he has in his shoulders right now, if he can't add speed to this strength, it's not powerful. Only strength with speed accompanying it is powerful.
That is a fact.
All right, so I'll get into my drills here. So I'm going to do a drill using a speed golf stick. You could use a speed stick, you could use a golf club, you could use a golf club upside down, you could use one of our tsunami sticks that has even more built-in lag, whichever you want to do, but I'm going to kind of cover 3 in 1 of why you do what you do. Understanding why you do what you do for golf is going to help you be more efficient, Robbie, in that 30-minute time. If I got 30 minutes, man, I want every second to count.
Make it count.
All right, so one of the drills that they teach you at TPI, and a lot of your better golf instructors around the country will teach a step drill, you know, where you're actually stepping out. Well, if you think about it, you ever played baseball before? A lot of us have. They teach us how to jab step and then do a rotation to an extension.
Right.
So people that have done rotation to extension all their life, tennis players, baseball players, hockey players, whatever. Well, most of them go to golf, they have good speed. They have good rotational speed, okay? Regardless of what they've been doing in the gym. But if I'm in the gym and I want to use a speed golf stick, there's a move called a step drill. On the step drill, it feels really strange because it's not like the jab step that just kind of looks natural. I'm actually moving the shaft back and taking a lead step at the same time. Now, if I do that, that means that my left hip is getting stretched early, okay, before I even start the downswing. So if that happens there, I'm going to be in exaggerated properties as far as getting my left hip to externally rotate. So by the time I finish, I really feel like my left hip is moving a lot faster and a lot earlier. Well, in fact, it is. And so you almost feel see some people lose their balance because they're not used to their left hip turning that fast. Okay, well that's a good thing. We want our left hip to be able to turn fast because again, this is a key in a golf swing. Now, let's say you really get good with that drill. Again, shaft in front, moves the same time, release shaft and get to it. Let's say you get really good at that, but you want to work on power into the ground.
Right.
I can do the same movement, but instead of my emphasis being on the step going out, I can put emphasis on the step going down. So if I want to put more pressure on the ground, I step down and almost stomp into the ground and then rip and get more speed.
Got it.
Okay, and all I did was add pressure into the ground.
I can see the sequencing right there, and especially when you went to the stomp drill.
Right.
I imagine, I don't know if you ever measured your speed on that?
Yes. It could be as much as 5 to 10 miles an hour faster with the pressure going down than the pressure just moving lateral.
Wow.
Okay, because that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to get pressure out of the ground. All right, so let's just go back to that again. So we're doing a couple different things. We're working on exaggeration of the left hip. We're working on our ground pressure, how we're using our newly gained strength and body weight into the ground, okay? And we're working on more speed because we're swinging a device that's either 10% lighter than our club, the same weight as our club, or 10% heavier. When Speed Golf came out here, they did us TPI guys a solid because TPI did the research and found out that if you're swinging your driver, and let's say it's 264 grams, if you built another driver that was 10% lighter and then another driver that was 10% heavier and you did cycles of training with those three, then all of a sudden you would definitely pick up some speed. Okay?
Yep.
Now the old days where you used to have the power hitter driver that was real heavy, or the momentous, if you want to go back that far, which I tried all that stuff.
I had one.
They were actually too heavy. Okay, so the only way to swing faster is to swing faster. So at some point in your swinging, and we just talked about overspeed training a few seconds ago, some part of your overspeed training has to have something lighter than even the golf club that you swing. Does that make sense?
Well, it does. It makes perfect sense. In fact, you brought something up when you were talking about heavier to lighter to heavier.
Right.
In our world, in the weightlifting world,
Right.
We've had that set and rep pattern, for ages.
Yes.
To where we might go with 135 and go to 225, then drop back down to 135, then bump it back up.
Right.
So yeah, that's very effective, and I can see why that that would definitely build some speed into the club head, and ball velocity, I guess, is associated with that. All right, KT, let's. I see we got a barbell out here. This happens to be a Tsunami speed bar.
Yes.
Speed bar. If you haven't heard, if you don't know anything about the Tsunami lineup of bars and the speed bar, force bar, max bar, I'll have some of the links to that information below in the description. You can find out more about these bars there. But this is a flexible barbell technology, and now Ken is going to get into the resistance training portion of something that you can put into that 30-minute program. Like you said, don't shy away from the squats. Don't shy away from the squat to a press or a jump, or
Right.
It's all about putting that force into the ground, isn't it?
Right.
And then getting your trunk to work in sequence with that to get that club head going.
Right, Robbie. Yeah, and guys, I just want you to understand that, Robbie, what we did as a kid was so beneficial as an athlete. And for whatever reason, when we get 25, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, we become less childlike. And we really need to be childlike. We really need to stay young from doing all the same motor skills we did when we were younger.
Yeah.
So what I'm getting ready to do, this is a part of what I actually did earlier this morning for my own training. This is a bit of contrast training, but I'm gonna put two extraordinary pieces in there. I'm gonna do contrast training with the Tsunami bar that's got extra flexibility, but I'm also gonna use it in alignment with what you guys just heard with the Speed Golf Stick in terms of putting pressure in the ground. So my two movements putting pressure in the ground, I'm gonna demo what we call a Sumo Deadlift, and lots of deadlifts out there. There's Bulgarian, there's Russian, there's your common conventional deadlift, there's your Sumo Deadlift, there's your straight-legged deadlift that emphasizes hamstrings,
hammies and
back,
glutes,
or both.
Yep.
Okay. The one I'm gonna use to start off with is called a Sumo Deadlift. So one arm in, one arm opposite grip. You can see that I'm nice and low with my glutes, my head up, chest up, really good, and I'm gonna pull and drive my hips through. Okay. Now that's not really, like we said before, Robbie, not very much different than my bunker stance.
Right.
My bunker stance, I'm right here. I'm trying to use the bounce of the club, and I'm really trying to get a good loud thump in the sand. So I'm kind of almost in that position. But what makes this a little difference, again, I only got 30 minutes to train for you people out there. I want this to be my game changer. I want this to be something that I can use that gets 640 muscles, gets my cardiac output, and works on me putting pressure in the ground.
That doesn't leave many out.
That's right. So I'm going to start off, and I might do a sets of 8 where I'm exploding with 8 different sumo deadlifts, and then immediately I'm going to come off of it, and I'm going to get 8 leapfrogs while I'm working vertical power.
Oh yeah.
Now, I just talked about vertical power, and vertical power is the biggest power system in most people's golf swing. Some people are a little bit stronger in the torso, but usually what you generate between hips, knees, and ankles is where you get majority of your power. Now, some people from the old days used to be so good with forearm rotation, and they had these massive forearms, they could get a lot there. I'm not saying we don't use all of the 4 power systems. I'm saying it's our job to make sure that you use better of all 4, so you got maximum amount of power, speed, and strength.
And that, you know, and I remember it well, and I think about it all the time, especially when I see today's youth. They don't do the things that we did back then. You know, I had a park across the street, and we all gathered to play baseball, football, basketball, something every single day. And if it wasn't that, we were climbing trees, jumping fences, you know, climbing through the creek beds or whatever was available.
Right.
Throwing rocks, it didn't make any difference. Just it was motion. It's all about motion and being active. Contact Ken Taylor. He's available.
Or at least a strength coach that plays the game, that understands the game, because
You know,
it's a tough one.
that is huge.
Yes.
And I'm as guilty as anybody of that. When people started coming to me, I was a strength coach for football, baseball, and basketball primarily. Did a little bit of soccer. And the golfers came in and they asked me to help them out. Well, I didn't know what the hell to do with them, except for put them on stuff that I knew.
Right.
And that's the way it is a lot of times. So don't fall into that trap. Don't go to somebody that's a trainer for athletes, but not necessarily golfers, because it's a different motion.
It really is. And, you know, specificities are what they say they are. But if let's say you're less than a 10 handicap, you want to make sure that you do not hurt yourself. You want to make sure that all your progressions blend right in with what your competitive goals are. Now, if you're a starting golfer, just getting in the weight room is fantastic for you.
Yep.
Even if a trainer's got you doing a lot of conventional training, whatever, you're getting some overall strength. You're going to be better. All of your motor skills being polished every day, whether it's a tricep press down or whether it's an Olympic lift, they're all going to make you better. I'm just trying to help you guys understand that you want to get real concise, narrow in your focus. So if only you have 30 minutes, you want it to be golden.
Yeah, the pyramid, the foundation is wide at the bottom and it narrows at the top. And that's exactly how you want to approach your training to do just what we're trying to impart to you here today, which is club head speed, ball velocity, and watch that ball go far. I want to thank my good friend here, Ken Taylor, for helping me out. I appreciate it, KT. We're going to be back with you some more. Ken's not going to be absent from this channel. He's got a lot to offer, and we're going to take advantage of it as much as we can. So, if you like the content that you see today, please hit that like button. It really helps us out, and subscribe to the channel. You know, I read an article not too long ago. I can't remember where I saw it, but it said that people that subscribe to this channel they were on People's Sexiest People Alive list.
Well, there's only 2% of us that are in there, and so I want to welcome that 2% that's watching.
Welcome to the club. We appreciate it. So hit that subscribe button. We really appreciate it. And check the description for the links below to get information on all the stuff that we've showed you here today. And the lowdown to be back with you real soon. Y'all take care.
Peace out.